Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Empty Man. And this was a horror film that came out in fall 2020. Finally got around to actually showing up on VOD, so I'm getting a chance to review it. I didn't get to catch it in the drive-in when it was in the area around me. And this film is written and directed by David Pryor and based off of a graphic novel. And I didn't watch the trailer, and going into this, I'm like, this is almost a 2 hour and 20-minute horror film. I'm like, not many horror films dare to get that much into depth in terms of like runtime and stuff like that, unless you're like The Shining, or even like the second Conjuring film. I'm pretty sure was like 2 hours 15 minutes, somewhere around there. My expectation going in was this is hopefully not going to be like another Bye Bye Man, just 2 times as long. But after watching this film, it's interesting because like 25 minutes of this film is basically a prologue. And it's an interesting comparison, but it's similar to Pieces of a Woman that had like a 25-minute like opening set to set the stage for the rest of the film, and this film did that as well. And basically, in a weird way, it's like this first 25 minutes is setting up the mythology of like a creepypasta or something. And then the rest of it is stupid teenagers do something with it, and then the ramifications of it. Gets a little more complicated than that, but we'll get there. The opening 25 minutes that's set up in Bhutan and setting up this mythology of this empty man is really well shot, really tense and suspenseful. And I'm sitting there like, why does this have a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes? Like, this is interesting unless they stretch the story way too thin. And then after 25 minutes, just like, bam, I'm like, and then the title comes up, I'm like, that was the opening of this? So I didn't know going in that like these like Americans in a foreign land encountering this strange spirit thing wasn't the whole movie. But it sets the stage for James Badge Dale, who plays this man whose neighbor, this young girl, goes missing, and like written in blood in her room is "The empty man made me do it." And then strange things start happening to her friends, and her one friend explains that they were on a bridge and did this strange little ceremony to bring about the empty man, blowing into like a bottle as like a flute on a bridge, which was set up in the prologue part of the film. And then James Badge Dale, who's a former cop, spends most of his time trying to figure out, where did this girl go? Is she dead? What happened to her? And then he finds himself in this strange spiraling story of a cult led by Stephen Root, who's such a great character actor, shows up for like a scene or two in this film, but is so great. He's like an L. Ron Hubbard kind of type of leading this strange cult that's based around the empty man. And the thing is, there's definitely some slower parts in this film. There's definitely some parts that feel like it's stretched out. And by the end, there's a whole bunch of twists going on. The story gets very convoluted, and trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this movie and what this all means and how does everything really fit together here and how's it fit back to that prologue. Everything just starts swirling, and for most of the film, I was intrigued with a lot of mystery. Did I think that the ending really kind of brought it together and was effective? Not really. It was a little too like trying to be like, want to get shocked, and throwing a whole bunch of curveballs at you. But leading up to that point, Pryor does a fantastic job of building tension. There's quite a few great set pieces in terms of some scares. And James Badge Dale, like, his character's pretty flat. There's not a whole lot to his character. You know, like, he has these feelings for his neighbor's mother, this teenage girl who goes missing, and there's something going on between him and his mother. Her mother, and there's obviously some baggage in terms of like he lost a wife and a son, and all of those things you're setting up. It's one of those things where it's like you get the rug pulled out from under you. It's like, what was real, what's not, what was important, what wasn't. And I don't know if it really came together, but leading up to that point, there's some really freaky stuff in here. And there's one particular scene which was, there's a lot of nice callbacks from the prologue as the film goes on, including this strange, there's obviously some cliches here and some bad decisions, and like in the prologue there's a woman out in the snow yelling to this figure that obviously does not look like a normal person. There's like tethers all flying around and I'm like, that looks sketchy. Why are you moving towards it? And then to finally realize that probably not good. She takes one step back, this thing steps towards her. And that whole idea, and that comes back later in the film. And there's one point in this film where I actually started laughing because James Badgedale actually got to show some personality. He's like, oh, no, no. And he just like turns around and starts running and all like this horde of cultists just start chasing him and just like, okay, that was fun. I wish there was a little more personality like that throughout the rest of the film, but there's definitely things in this film that Pryor is able to do, along with the score and the cinematography, that really build things up in this film. There's a lot of potential here. Did the story really come together in the end that I felt like was satisfying? Maybe not. But there's definitely enough here to work. It is like a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, so it is a commitment. And that's the tricky thing too, is because like it's long, it feels long, but in the end, you get your horror cliches. Like there's a part where it's just like looking up things on the internet. I'm just like, oh my god. Well, you know, if this was in the 90s, they would have just been at a library looking up newspapers. Instead, looking on your computer at newspapers, and it's just like that pops up. There's things like that that pop up in so many horror films that it's just like, please stop doing that. But in the end, I think The Empty Man is a solid horror film that has a lot of potential, and I look forward to seeing what David Pryor does moving forward. But those are my thoughts on The Empty Man. Let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.